I design museums for a living, and time again, I get asked the same question. Does anyone go to museums anymore? And it's a fair question. In a world that's constantly online, where everything is so fast, so interactive, and always on, museums can feel like relics of the past, slow, static, trapped in time. We're surrounded by information, yet somehow it all just feels like noise. We skim the surface of what's happening around us, but we rarely take the time to pause and understand the bigger picture. And in this fast-paced world, museums can seem disconnected. But here's the thing. Museums are more important today than ever before. In a time where truth often feels hard to grasp, and where real emotional connections are increasingly distant, museums offer us something we desperately need, a chance to pause, to reflect, and to reconnect. They give us the space to remember. That's why I design museums. Museums and cultural spaces have been the focus of my work, and I truly believe in the power of these places to make us feel, to challenge our perceptions, and to allow us to connect with the world in ways that digital platforms simply cannot. From a young age, I've been fascinated by how spaces tell stories, not only through what we see, but through how they make us feel. The light, the texture, the sound, the atmosphere, they all contribute to the story, and they are what make museums truly immersive spaces and experiences. It's this connection between space and narrative that gives museums their relevance and importance in our modern world. And in an age where we are constantly rushing around, we need these places to slow us down, to find that opportunity to reconnect with each other, with our history, and with the truths that matter most. I'd like you to just take a moment with me and imagine something. Picture yourself walking down a busy street. Everything around you is buzzing with activity. Screens are lighting up, constant notifications, the never-ending hum of modern life, all vying for your attention, all demanding your time. And in the middle of all this, it's easy to wonder, are museums still relevant? Why bother going to a museum when everything you could possibly need is just a click away? Well, let me tell you, museums pull us away from all that noise. They pull us away from all the predictable algorithms, and they invite us into something deeper. They encourage us to engage not just with the past, but with the present, with the people around us and with ourselves. At their best, museums remind us that the world is bigger, more complex, and more beautiful than the curated feeds that we scroll through. And perhaps, most importantly, they challenge us to ask the big questions. Who are we? What do we value? How do we make sense of this moment in time? Museums do all this while also reminding us of something that we may have forgotten, that we are capable of real emotional connection. So, museums can do a lot for us, but why exactly? What is it that makes museums so special? Why should we step away from our digital distractions and enter a real physical space? It comes down to one thing: narrative design. Narrative design is the art of telling stories through space. It's the process where objects, architecture, technology all come together to create an experience that allows us to think, to feel, and to engage. Museums have evolved dramatically over the years. They've become living, dynamic environments where stories unfold. And this is where narrative design truly shines. By carefully curating the relationship between objects, space, and story, museums become places that inspire us on a deeper level. They become stages, and we, the visitors, are invited into the story. And in doing so, they tap into something powerful, emotional resonance. Now, a study from the University of Chicago in 2021, it found that the most memorable, the most attention-grabbing scenes in television are those that move us emotionally. For the study, they actually used a murder scene from the TV show Sherlock. But I wasn't able to show you that scene today. It's too gruesome, and it's also very expensive. So instead, I found this lovely stock image, and I plastered the word murder over the top, but you get the idea. It kind of gives you the same feeling. But anyway, the same principle applies to museums, just not the murder bit. When a museum story really grabs us on an emotional level, it stays with us. It becomes part of who we are. It becomes real. But emotional connection isn't about flashy tech or cutting-edge exhibits. While tools like artificial intelligence, virtual reality, augmented reality, they certainly have their place. But they cannot replicate what truly moves us: empathy, emotion, and the common bonds that bring us all together. It's these human-driven narratives where museums come alive. These are the spaces where connections are made and where stories linger long after we leave. Let me take you to a museum that perfectly embodies this idea. This museum has been around for nearly 200 years. And yes, many museums have been around for that long. But this is a special place. This is a special museum that embodies the core of narrative design. And it's also one of my favourites. This is the Sir John Soane Museum in London. Now, on the surface, it looks like a museum. It's set in a beautiful Georgian townhouse, and it's filled with thousands of wonderful paintings, sculptures, and architectural fragments collected from across the world. But that's not what makes it special. This place isn't just about what it shows. It's about how and why it tells its story. Sir John Soane, his bust here in the centre of this image, he was an incredible architect and visionary storyteller. He lived from 1753 to 1837, and he believed that architecture, art, and history, it should be shared and not locked away. So in 1833, while he was still alive, he opened his home as a museum to the public. He wanted people to walk through his world, not just look at it. His collection tells the story of an intellectual journey through time and space. It's a deeply personal narrative, expressed through his collection of objects, where each corridor, each room, each gallery becomes a conversation between light, shadow, object and space, idea and emotion. Soane's museum is a beautifully curated and composed narrative, one that invites curiosity and sparks imagination. And it's been doing so ever since the first day it opened. Today's museums have evolved beyond Soane's model. They've become enriched with technology and contemporary design, becoming spaces where visitors more actively engage with the story. We no longer just receive information, we participate in it. But how do museums create these meaningful connections? How do they encourage visitors to engage on a personal level? The answer lies in the ability to give visitors agency, to allow visitors to shape their own narratives. Each encounter, each experience within a museum should be and is personal, filtered through our own stories, memories, and perspectives. Narrative design empowers us to do this, to interact with content in ways that resonate uniquely. So let's now consider the emotional power of storytelling. Museums do more than present facts. They give them shape and meaning. They help us to reflect, to sometimes remember and question who we thought we knew. Narrative design transforms a static space into a living experience, something that we can connect to, not just informative, but emotional. A space where we're invited to pause, to wonder, and to connect. And it's in those moments where museums become more than places of history. They become places of conversation about identity, culture, and the world around us. And that leads to a deeper question. What do we choose to remember? Museums can't preserve everything, but they can make choices. And those choices reflect what society values. And values change. What once felt permanent can fade. And what was once ignored can suddenly feel really vital. That's why museums today are not only about preservation, they're about relevance. They're about reflecting the people they serve. And when people see themselves in the story, they engage. And when they feel included, they care. When that happens, museums become places of meaning, where complex issues like climate change, justice, or inequality can be explored with honesty. This isn't just theory, it's happening right now. Take Belfast Stories, a unique cultural venue that is set to open by 2030 in the heart of the city of Belfast. Partly housed in a historic former bank and expanded with incredible, bold new architecture by the architects Snøhetta, who are just up the fjord from here in Oslo, and supported by local Belfast architects Todd. This venue will be more than a museum. It'll be a narrative in the making. From the ground up, every volume, every surface of the architecture will be infused with the voices of Belfast's people and shared and experienced in unexpected ways. It'll be a space where stories are not just told, but felt, where media, art, poetry, they all come together to capture the richness and complexity of a place that continues to shape and reshape its own identity. Belfast Stories isn't about fixing history in place. It's about inviting people in. It's a living narrative that evolves with its community, and it will never stand still. Similarly, the Museum of the Viking Age in Oslo, also just up the fjord, is set to open in 2027. And when it does, it'll be the world's largest museum dedicated to the Viking era. It'll be an interactive, participatory space where modern visitors can engage with Viking history in fresh and exciting ways. It'll showcase incredible artifacts and bring to the forefront the people who use them in their daily lives, showing us how the Viking legacy still connects with, shapes, and influences contemporary society, resonating across cultures and continuing to leave its mark. This is the true power of narrative design. The ability to engage with the past while challenging visitors to think about their role in the present and future. And in a world where misinformation spreads as quickly as truth, museums hold a special responsibility to be our guardians of knowledge, preserving the facts and offering us the truth through all the noise. And maybe, most importantly of all, museums remind us that we are part of something bigger, a story that stretches beyond our own lives. So, the next time you find yourselves asking yourself, why should I bother going to a museum? Ask yourself this instead. What can I gain from stepping into a space that challenges me to slow down and to connect with a story that's bigger than my own? Museums aren't just places to see objects. They are living spaces full of stories and experiences. They help us remember what matters. They help us reconnect with the past, the present, and the future that we are all shaping together. In this age of distraction, museums are more essential than ever. Tusen tak. Thank you.